I think at the end of the day, this is a point of connection, and we want shared experiences. So it's apparently Eclipse Day. I decided to do a time lapse. So I've pulled over on the side of the highway. Let's hope the camera doesn't burn up. Hey, it started. All right, friends, so let's talk a little bit about end times and eclipses and earthquakes and all of that. First, there's been a lot of talk over the last several days about the fact that there's an eclipse and earthquakes, and that's signaling the end times and the apocalypse, which is just hogwash. I am now in my 40s and cannot begin to count how many times there's been some forecasted end date. One was on the date of my first wedding, still here and married a second time. So all of that stuff is just like, I think people wanting a little bit of control in a seemingly out of control kind of world. And if we're going to go with biblical stuff here, if you're going to look at Revelation as sort of this, it's forecasting the apocalypse. One, you don't know anything about that book because it was written for a particular context. It's written in an apocalyptic genre. So that means that it is actually written in code about a particular time period. And so a lot of the things that happen in that book are one, code, and not literal. So not literal earthquakes, eclipses, whatever. But then also, I don't even remember there being an eclipse anywhere in that book, but okay. Then two, it was written about a time period after the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed and while the Roman Empire was hunting down Christians. So do not think that that is a forecast for things to come, other than the only forecasting I think it does is to remind us that God is both with everybody who is traveling through difficult circumstances. I think that's one of the key things to take away from that book, that some of the circumstances, of course, are our own doing and the ways that we screw up for ourselves. But also sometimes it is that we are experiencing external pressures and events that make our lives miserable, and God goes through it with us, and that God ultimately conquers all of that in the end. And so we can trust that love will win in the end, and that God will be with us through everything that we endure. If we were to sum up apocalyptic writing, the main message would be, things really, really stink right now, but if you hold out a little bit longer, they will get better. And I think that's a pretty good message for the rest of life. I mean, so, do what you want in terms of thinking about the eclipse as something apocalyptic, but I would warn against that. I don't think that you should bank on it. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really cool astronomical event that has happened many times, including last October. Come on, people. Here's the thing that I've been thinking about all afternoon. The eclipse is, to a certain degree, about the eclipse. I mean, it's kind of cool. You don't see this every day. The moon moves in between us and the sun, and it blocks the sun. And for those folks who experience totality, there's an element of darkness that is not normal during the course of the day. And so, there is something about that is both amazing, and people want to experience it. And so much of this is it's a shared experience. I think that we are longing for connection, that we want to share this with friends and family. It's something that many of us are experiencing at the same time. There is something about having seen this thing that others of my community, wider community, have seen. And so I think we're looking for places to connect. And maybe my takeaway from that is the fact that we seem so disconnected nowadays. I feel like as we talk about especially politics, but almost anything where there's some sort of either or option, it feels like we come down very starkly on one side or the other, and we cannot figure out a way to have a shared experience. And so maybe that's the hope of the eclipse. So there's this RV up here that has been up here a couple times lately in the last week. I'm so intrigued by it. You'll see why. Yeah, just take your porta potty with you.